This event that you're about to see today was the most watched and attended event at GenBlue last September. And Andrew came with us. It's called Magnetic Agent. It's about how to attract business to you. And I'm extremely proud and honored to introduce our guest speaker today, who is a leader in education developed in the world. And has quite an interesting resume. He's the Vice President of Learning and Development for Coldwell Banker. His previous roles were Global Senior Trader for Sotheby's International. He was the former CEO of Keller Williams, that company that he didn't stay there long. He didn't like it. He came to us. Director of Recruiting and Agent Development for Century 21. And Director of Franchise Development for Better Homes and Gardens with Anywhere Real Estate. He is an incredible in person as well. So I wouldn't bring anybody here if I didn't like them. So his wife is Canadian, from London, Ontario, and he's from California. And his session today is so in tune with the way you're going to basically build a real estate business. And that's what this is all about. That's what Coldwell Banker, the real estate center, is all about. My wife and I are non-selling owners. Our job is to help bring you the best education development in the business to help you build a successful business, right? And we've done that today. So let's, without further ado, let's give a warm CB Trek welcome to Mr. Brett.
Thank you. Thanks, Dean. Pay you later. Okay, before we get started, I need your permission for something. I like to, okay, you can leave. There's one extra seat. No, I need your permission on something. So in my role, I compete with other heads of professional development with the other major brands. Sotheby's International Realty, Century 21, ERA, now Compass International Holding. So I compete with all of them, and I'm very competitive, as are all of you. So what I'd like to do is take a selfie, and anyone not been to like a rock concert growing up, to where you're out there just screaming out loud, that's what I'd like to ask you to do when I say, good morning, Coldwell Banker, and I'll just have a selfie going along and just making sure that I can send that to them so I can boast. So I can say that we're better than you. I do that, again, because I'm competitive. I really like to win, but I do it for a really sincere reason, is I really like to see other people lose. And that's very noble on my part, because in my profession, and I think many of you will agree with me, is that you learn more by losing than you do by winning. So I'm just here to help people out any given day. So are you guys okay with that? Yeah. Okay. If you're not okay with it, just stay sitting down. But if you're okay with it, just wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. And then I'm just going to say, and I'm just going to pan this way. Is that okay? All right. I need to do a selfie too, though. Okay. Good morning, Coldwell Banker. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So, all of you are professional speakers. You guys just do one-to-one communication. I used to do that. I started out as a solo agent in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's a state in the United States. And now I do one-to-many. Here's the thing, is that I did that for very, very specific reasons. Number one is to boast. I wasn't lying about that. But number two is I had to reset your attention span. And you'll notice when we go through this, I want you to watch what I do and also hear what I say. Because the lessons are in watching me what I do, because everything that I'm going to share with you today, the culmination to it, you're going to be able to implement a version of that into your business. Okay, so we reset the attention. The other thing is, if you ever have an opportunity, I think many of you do, when you have a chance to speak in front of people, do that to reset the attention. But you also eliminate a whole lot of pressure, because now I have video that things just went really, really awesome. So it doesn't really matter how this lands anymore. So thank you for doing that. So my name's Brett Matsuura. I'm the Vice President of Professional Development for Coldwell Banker. I guess you guys would call that international. I just call it for the brand. In my role, I oversee the learning, training, all the curriculum for more than 600 companies and more than 100,000 agents on planet Earth. You guys happen to reside on the planet, so thank you. Come to find out that we might not be alone in this universe. More to come on that through Facebook. But I'm here to talk to you about Magnetic Agent and how to become the agents everyone calls first. Is there anyone have a problem with what I call come list me calls? Anyone? Not even the person who said that didn't get permission? Okay, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we get people to call you and not you continue to grind out. Now, not saying that things don't work, but we want to make sure that part of your marketing plan, part of what you do is go to bed, return your phone calls, go on listings, take them, sell them, earn a commission. That's really what this is about. Now, before we get started, I am going to ask yet another favor. I need you to scan this. This is a 3-question survey. Number 1, what's your postal code? Number 2 is, well, what is number 2? I can't even remember. It's really easy. Your name?
No.
No?
How many years?
How many years you've been in the market? Thank you.
Yes.
How many years you've been in the business? Number 3 is the more important one. What is the one challenge in your business that if solved today, one challenge? I have to emphasize one challenge because some of you are going to do a laundry list. One challenge that if you solved it today, it would have the biggest impact over your income in the next 90 days. See how I narrowed that down? Now I do this no matter where I go, and it's going to take you on average 1 minute and 20 seconds, 1 minute 21 seconds to fill it out. It's an open-ended question. But just be very, very specific. What's the biggest challenge, if solved today, would have the biggest impact in your income over the next 90? Future sessions will have a Jeopardy theme song playing in the background. Okay. Now, the reason why I asked that question, notice I didn't ask you what you want. Notice I didn't ask you what you need. You see, if I asked you those questions, I'm not going to get down, and typically what will happen is I get surface level stuff. But when I ask you what your biggest challenge is, well, now I can solve for challenges. Challenges we can do. What you want isn't necessarily what you need. And so what we're going to do is we take all of this data from every single agent that, and I read all of them. Well, at least I used to. Now I just upload it into AI and have it do the commonalities on there. This is how we create our learning curriculum. From everyone from you. We listen to what, well, my team, we listen to you. It hasn't always been that way. A lot of times what happens is at the brand level, you get a lot of people who didn't sell real estate, and they're the ones who want to tell you what you need to know in order to sell more property. Well, I like to hear what your challenges are, and then once I find out what your challenges are, we can go and draft up a solution. So thank you for doing that. Now, this session, as Dean said, was the number 1 attended, number 1 rated session at GenBlue. At GenBlue, we have about 3,000 real estate agents from across the planet, more so from the United States. I would encourage you, if you've never been, I would encourage you to go. My team is responsible for the learning curriculum throughout the entire session. We had 80 some odd sessions. We had panels. We had workshops. This was the number 1. Dean and I became friends. And so when I went to Florida, he's like, hey, you should come up to Canada, eh? And so I said, okay, my wife's from Canada, so I'm from Canada. This is a quote that we got of Arizona. At 72 years young, I've been licensed since 1994, and prior to that, enjoyed a successful corporate career. Needless to say, I've been to countless seminars, presentations, conventions over the past 54 years in all parts of the country. I can honestly say that this presentation was among my top 5 favorite because the content was relevant, achievable, and delivered in a very efficient, relaxed manner. I hope it was recorded. It wasn't. So I can share with my colleagues, I don't encourage it. You know, when I was practicing real estate or selling real estate in Salt Lake City, Utah, I was young. I was in my early 20s. I was a baby-faced kid. I had spiky hair. I had a suit that didn't look like it fit. It was really, really challenging to go on listing presentations and to convince just typical sellers that I was the best person to sell their property. Very challenging. But you know what I discovered is that when you find somebody's problem, a big problem, your age tends to not matter so much. So I started focusing on the default space. Now, this was well before the Great Recession in the US, which I know that came out had effects over here. It was really bad over there, but this was years before that. And there's a book that's called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And then this was not intention of mine. My whole thing was I needed business. I needed to make money. I needed to close deals. I needed to take a lot of listings. So I went after the default market. That's how that happened. Now, the reason why I share that story with you is because I spent a lot of years in the Marine Corps in the US, and one of my friends came out of the Marine Corps after me, wanted to get in real estate. I'm like, yeah, come on. I'm going to make a team and I'm going to teach you everything I know. And I did. And you know what I did? I created my biggest competitor in that space because I taught him everything I knew. So even though this is being recorded and you're all friends, Dean and I were talking earlier that we have a unique culture. We're all friends and yet we're all competitors. We're all kumbaya drinking coffee together, sitting in the same room. But once it's over, we're taking out and going out, take each other out of business. That's what real estate is. So I would encourage you not to share. And then it says, I'm almost tempted to ditch the rest of the expo and get started on my new listings. Or my new learnings. Now I was there. She could have very well ditched the rest of the expo. See, I've been in your shoes. I've been in the real estate industry longer than I haven't now, 28 years this year. My first 12 were in production in one form or the other. And I'm not here to waste your time. Definitely not here to have Dean fly me out here just to give you the same old garbage that other people in other firms are going to do. My goal is here that you learn one thing, not a dozen. You take one thing and you implement it. That's the deal. You take one thing, you invest this time, you take one thing and you implement it. And that implementation is going to you're going to get more than one thing. I want to be clear on that. But the goal is to get you to take one thing and then implement it. Now, everywhere I go, because I do work for the brand, which is a corporate entity, I have to acknowledge that I have to name our sponsors. So I have to give a word from our sponsors, which is our legal team. They require, I say this everywhere I go. Now, I've paraphrased this down for you guys. It used to be 3 minutes because I'm not kidding, I had to read it. Always be sure to fully comply with all local, state laws, rules, and regulations, especially when it relates to real estate. If you have any questions, don't ask me. Dean's back there. Okay? Now, in the U.S., and I know it's also here too, the do not call list, it's a big deal in the United States, and I didn't want to take this out because I think it's relevant. It's relevant for not necessarily the law, but because what it says about the consumer. There are laws I know here and in the United States that if you call someone who doesn't want you to call them, there are some serious financial ramifications that could come with that. Now I'm building that into what we're going to be talking about, but that's it for our words from our sponsors. Agents helping agents. Scan this. This is something that we launched a little over a year ago. And this is a monthly panel session with the top agents. Look, we're a top brand in the world, which means we have the top agents in the world. I have access to a lot of them. And so what we do every single month, the third Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, so 2 p.m. your time, is that we have 50 minutes where I just ask them questions. Could be one agent, could be two agents, really kind of depends on the volume. Really kind of depends on who shows up too, because we're all in real estate after all. Sometimes I have both show up, sometimes I have one show up, sometimes I have to get my backup to show up. But they're all going to be doing at least 3 times the norm. So they're doing at least 30 some odd transactions in business. What I want to talk to them about is how'd you get in the business? How are you generating leads? How are you converting leads? That's the stuff that we talk about. And so if you find interest in hearing from top agents on the planet, then I'd encourage you. These are done live. They are recorded and you can get those on CBU. But if you show up live, you get asked questions that you don't get to actually do on the recorded part. So, okay, now, foreshadowing. Everybody should be doing foreshadowing, and I want to just define this because I'm going to foreshadow with you. Foreshadowing is a warning or indication of a future event. It's a warning or indication of a future event. How should you use this in your business? Well, does anyone want to get testimonials from their sellers or buyers? Anyone have a problem with getting testimonials? Everyone probably has a challenge getting testimonials. Otherwise, all of us would have several hundred online. You need to foreshadow at the time you're getting the listing agreement signed. A foreshadowing means, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if I help you get what you want and the time you want, will you be willing to do like a 3 or 4 minute testimonial from you online? Would you be willing to do that? And they're just going to say yes. Why are they going to say yes? Because they just signed the listing agreement. This isn't a big deal. But what happens if you don't do that? Then what happens is you close the deal, you ask them, they forget, you ask them again, they still forget, and then you feel uncomfortable asking them again because you're going to annoy them. And you will. But that's the deal, though, is that if you don't set the terms in the beginning, if you don't foreshadow that expectation, it's called a micro commitment. If you don't foreshadow that expectation, it's really hard to get it down the road. Now, the only other option you have is just give bad service, and they'll be willingly to give a testimonial. But we don't want to do that. We want to give good service. So here are my promises that you're going to get by sitting through this. And we're going to go for about an hour-ish. Objective number 1, you're going to know what's important to sellers and buyers when choosing an agent so you can attract them as clients. So, key terms on there. You're going to know what's important to sellers and buyers so that you can attract them as clients. Wouldn't it make sense if we're in real estate and our job is to sell homes and list homes and sell homes, that we should know what it is that they want from an agent? Do you know what they want from an agent? Like, I have an idea of what they want. I also have a lot of data that backs up what they want that I'm going to share with you. Now, the data comes from the National Association of Realtors, and the reason why I did that is when I helped launch the learning for the actual learning department for Sotheby's International Realty. That was where I was at before I did this. And so I often spoke to Canada, Australia. They were a global company as well. What I find for Canada, and Dean made sure, he's like, hey, there are some things that we can't talk about. I'm like, okay, what are they? He's like, this whole 51st state thing. He's like, don't bring that up. I'm like, I'm not even going to touch that. Like, I'm perfectly fine with the 50 states that we have. Like, we have so much debt, I don't even know why anyone would want to be part of be the 51. So, but I'm not. But with that being said, is that consumers are consumers are consumers. So when I was in production, I sold over 1,000 properties across 26 states. I did most of that during the Great Recession. And what I find is that real estate is real estate is real estate. I find that your job is generate a lead, nurture that lead, go on to an appointment, take that appointment, convert them into a client, work on that client, service the client, negotiate the deal, go to settlement, go to closing, cash your check. That's the same no matter where I go, except Australia. Things are kind of upside down in Australia. But that's pretty much the case. But that's what we're talking about when we attract them as clients. Understand the modern consumer behavior so you can engage with consumers before they're ready to speak with an agent. Now, the key word, it's all capitalized, before they're ready to speak with an agent. See, most of the time, most curriculum, it starts from the time you generate a lead, and then it nurtures it and goes forward from there. See, what we're talking about is how do you communicate and engage with the client before they become a lead? Because what happens if you do that is that there's not as much competition. So you might be wondering, how do you do that? How can you speak with someone before they're ready to speak with you? Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're here, and that's why other people aren't, and that's why I said, don't share. I'm going to share with you a proven 5-step plan to become the go-to person in your market that'll generate high-quality leads. Now, 5-step proven method. How is it proven? Nothing I can assure you that there is nothing that comes out on CBU from this day forward. We've gone through a lot of changes. I've gone through a lot of, told Dean, I've gone through a lot of deregulation with this acquisition by Compass International Holdings. You'd never think that you'd get deregulated, but I did. There's a lot of stuff that I can do now that my hands were, it used to be that I just had to deal with what I got and make good with what I got. Now I can just kind of do things different. My commitment to you is nothing comes here from theory. Everything comes here from actual things that people have succeeded with. And what I'm going to share with you is pretty much my 28 years of trial and error that leads into all of this stuff to you guys. Now, if you stick with me, I'm going to give you guys a special gift at the end. Now, the special gift at the end is for you and you alone. This is for you to implement into your business. It is something that will align with what we're doing here. So if in fact you take something away, the foreshadowing I was talking about, I'm going to ask you to give me a testimonial after this. The deal is only if you learn something. If you don't learn anything, I'm not asking anything from you. I'm going to thank you for the time that you wasted, because I'm not here to waste anybody's time. Definitely not yours. So, you guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay, that was a very lengthy preamble. I promise you that's it. Okay, prospecting. By definition, prospecting is identifying and engaging potential customers to generate leads and to build a pipeline of qualified opportunities for future sales. So the reason why I had to define prospecting, I am a student of behavior, and I'm a student of modern behavior. So I was on a meeting. I get my fair share of I get my fair share and your fair share of meetings on the daily basis, being in the corporate environment. Well, I was on a meeting, and I know that you know that I was not really paying attention. My camera was off. Whenever you guys if you guys ever come to any virtual workshops with me, I'm going to ask you to have your camera on. I know that if your camera on, I have at least partial of your attention, but if your camera's off, it's gone. So I had my camera off, and I have multiple screens. I'm working at the same time. I have my window, I have the TV, I have my phone. There's a lot of things that are going on, and I'm just kind of listening in the background. Well, what I hear come up is that this whole conversation, now, I don't know if you guys heard that our former company ownership, we had to write a really, really big check due to the do not call list. And so that was a chain reaction. That started a chain reaction of a lot of regulations, a lot of things we can't do. We had to scrub all of our learning content, everything. Well, I'm on this meeting, and all of a sudden I hear this. It just caught my attention. It's the conversation about eliminating the word prospecting from all of our curriculum. It's like I had to tell you to stop saying water. So, but that's what we did. I'm like, wait a second. I mean, excuse me, did you guys just say that we're going to eliminate the word prospecting? They're like, yeah. My next question, why? Well, because that's what got us sued. That's why. Brett, we have to make sure that we are not going to get sued again. I'm like, no. Prospecting is not what got us sued. It was bad prospecting that got us sued. You can't judge both of them the same. So when we talk about bad prospecting in the US, we talk about cold prospecting. See, cold prospecting has three variables to it. In fact, the cold prospecting have three variables to it. Number one is they don't know who you are. Number two, they don't know why you're calling. And number three, because they don't know who you are and why you're calling, they don't know if what you're having to offer is what they need or want. Those are the three. That is the equivalent of picking up what we used to call a phone book and just dialing for numbers. You will eventually stumble across somebody, but to what extent? It's going to take a while. And what's happened is that over time, it's gotten less and less effective. Why? Technology. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the problem with cold prospecting isn't that it doesn't work. The problem with cold prospecting is that it does work, because it's a numbers game. If you have enough time in your day and you are disciplined enough and you are really, really good at taking rejection, then you will be able to actually make a living prospecting, depending on price point. I think your guys' average sales price around here is about $1 million, right? Yeah. So You can't really do that in an average price point in the US of 400,000, but you could do it here. But I want to share some numbers with you, and these are the numbers I shared at GenBlue. These are the numbers, this is the number of phone numbers on the do not call list. Now, mind you, these numbers are someone had to actively go online and put their phone number into the do not call list. 250 million people. Well, the problem with that is that we only have 335 million people in the United States. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I can do simple math. You divide one number into the other and you get 75%. So what this is saying is that if every man, woman, and child in the United States had a phone, 3 out of 4 of them are going to be on the do not call list. But here's the thing. Not every man, woman, and child is or does have a phone. In fact, when I did this originally, my daughter was 12. She's now 14 going into high school. Love my daughter very, very much. But you know what? I liked her better at 12.
I agree.
Never met a parent that has gone through what I'm going through disagree with me on that. So 3 or 4. But anyways, when I created this the first time, she was one of very few people in her class. Maybe 3 or 4 of them had a phone. So I'm like, okay, well, there are 47.5 million kids under the age of 12 in the United States. So what happens if we take them out of the equation? Well, it bumps it up to 87%. 87%. Now, here's the other thing. If you're going to slice off the front end of the demographic, what does it look like if we slice off the back end of the demographic? Now, I got in trouble for this from the legal team because remember, they were really restrictive. I had the legal team call me. They thought I was trying to be Thanos, that I was going to snap my finger and eliminate the 24 million people over the age of 75. And I'm like, no, it's just, I'm just trying to paint a picture here. Not saying that everyone over 75 doesn't have a phone. I just had to be fair. So if we take the 24 million adults in the United States out of that, look what happens to the number, 95%. So the average age of a buyer and seller in the United States has gone up every single year. It has to do with interest rates. It has to do with prices. It has to do with inflation. It has to do with a lot of other things. But the average age right now is your first-time home buyer is late 40s, early 50s. Sellers are in their early 60s. So the question is, do you think that they want people to call them? Do they think that these numbers are saying, or what does this say about the consumer? Do you think that these numbers, and I think this is probably true in Canada as well, I would bet dollars to dimes that most of you don't, there's always going to be 1 or 2, but most of you won't answer an unidentified call because it's probably somebody, because you're expecting a solicitation. What's interesting about consumers is that nowadays they're not expecting you to answer anyways. They're expecting to leave a voicemail, a detailed voicemail of what they're calling, and then you can call them back. Behavior. But anyways, what does it say about the consumer? Does it say that, hey, I want you to call me at dinner time? Does it say that I want you to call me, period? No. No, that's not how behavior works. And at the end of this, you're going to understand how behavior works. So I want to level set here first. Now, everyone raise their left hand. Everyone, I need everyone, 100%. Everyone. Okay, put your hand down. Everyone raise your left hand. Okay, put them down. Notice how I raise my opposite hand so you guys see a mirror? Yeah, you can see I've done this before. So why did I do that? We are now going into voting mode, and I had to make sure that everybody's arms work because there's always going to be someone who doesn't participate. This works when everyone participates. So let's talk about buyers. What percentage of buyers began their home search online? So raise your hand if you think it's 36%. No, I don't want anyone looking. 36%? All right. Well, rule number 1, unplug and plug in. Plug back in. Okay, that didn't work. Man. Look, it was like one of those Facebook things where you had to try to pause it. Okay, who says 36%? Any takers? 77%? Okay, put your hands down. 43%. Okay, 43%. Now, see, it's all about the details. What percentage of buyers began their home search online? Who's been in the business longer than, say, 25 years? Anyone? 20 years? Okay. There was a time in real estate, just industry, that we were the only way that we controlled all the information. Anyone see the movie Ghostbusters? We were the gatekeeper and the key masters when it came to real estate. Glorious times. It didn't happen to change until a little bit later. But anyways, 43% started their home search online. What percentage of those buyers use the internet during the home search process? Now let me be clear, because it's only going to be fair. They may not have started their home search online, but they use the internet during the time. Who says 89%? Any takers? No? 96%? Okay, 100%. Some of you didn't vote. That's why we did the test. 100%. Now that was new. That's new as of January of last year. And it's unfair because 96 used to be that same number. But when I first came out with this, nobody believed me that it was 100%. Like, that's not possible. So I had to pull the graph. So remember, this is the glorious times. Back in the early 2000s, there was like so much attention, so much big deal that the internet surpassed the halfway point at this time. Anytime before that, we were the gatekeepers. We were the key masters. But now, it's 100%. Now, let me be clear. 100% of those who took an online survey took an online survey. So if they didn't take the online survey, then they didn't get it. So my recommendation to you, some of you or some of these buyers, they didn't take the survey because they live in a very rural area. They don't have internet. My suggestion to you is that if in fact you ever come up with a client that lives in a rural area with no internet, find the person that you like least in our industry in your local market and refer it to them. Because there's a very good likelihood it's not going to close. And you can get a referral fee when it is. But then the reason why it's the person that you like the least is because you take them out of the playing field. Strategy. Okay, but that's number 3. Okay, third one. What percentage of buyers found the home they purchased online? Now let me clarify this one too. I say that real estate is real estate is real estate. I don't think there's any different. It doesn't matter if you're in Dubai. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada. It doesn't matter if you're in the US. Here's what I think. Working with a buyer. It used to be we'd get them pre-qualified. Now we get them pre-approved. Probably the same here. Once you do that, you find out what kind of house they want. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What school district do they want? What area do they want? What are the things they really need? The lender tells you how much they can afford. And then you take all that information and you go find some properties. And then you give them a list of properties. Now, I recommend that you have them drive past the properties first because there's nothing worse than that walk of shame you have to do with the other agent. If you pull up in front of a house and they're like, no, I don't like seeing that. And then you have to explain to them why you didn't walk into the house. Does that happen here? Is that how you guys do that here? Okay, so I also know, I'll bet dollars to dimes, that when you show up for that listing appointment, they come to you and like, well, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? You know, one's 20% overpriced, but based on where they want to live. One's in a totally different school district. One has 5 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. That happened here? Okay, so that's them finding the home. That's not you finding the home, that's them finding the home. So what percentage do you think they found the home? Anyone say 51%? Anyone say 48%? Okay, 32%. 51%. That number always has the biggest reaction. See, ladies and gentlemen, our jobs have changed over the time. And it's like boiling a frog. It just happens so subtly until you look at the numbers and you can actually see what it is. And then you can actually start thinking about it like, yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. So take out your phones. Let's take a picture of this. Now, I have access to all of the CBU data, and I get to see what phone everybody engages with. And I know that there's probably about 4 or 5% in this crowd, which is maybe 3 or 4 people, that have an Android. Raise your hand if you're the 3 or 4. Okay. I'm going to leave this up here just a little bit longer for you guys. Okay. If you're going to work with buyers, you should know what seller or buyers want. Now, here's a little hook for the next section of this. What buyers want in a agent is uniquely different than what sellers want. Now we're going to do a level set on the sellers, but this is what buyers want. Agent experience, number one, not number one by far. If you look over to the left part of this, that's the year-over-year change. So it kind of fluctuates, but agent experience is number one. 18%, change is minus 1%. Agent is honest and trustworthy, number two. Number three is reputation of agent. Number four is agent has caring personality, good listener, up 5 points. Agent's a friend or family member, stay static, 10%. Agent's knowledge of the neighborhood, 9%. Collectively, 81%. 8 out of your 10 buyers that you work with, these are going to be the most important traits that they're looking for in an agent. So I would say that if you're going to work with agents, if you want to be in business to actually work with not work with agents, if they're going to work with agents, if you're going to be an agent working with buyers, you should probably focus on this, right? Okay, now let's look at sellers. Now, just to be fair, this is about the most I'm going to talk about buyers. Now, I'm old school. You list last in this business. I have yet to be in a market, internationally or locally, that has proven me wrong on that. In fact, if you look over the last 5 years, 10 years, those mega teams that used to dominate, there's no longer mega teams. No, because there's not that many listings anymore. So you list it last. This will probably be the last you actually hear about, well, not so much about buyers. Okay, level set with sellers. Everyone's arms working. You guys need a break? Okay, all right. Question number one, what percentage of sellers used an agent to buy or sell a home? Now, again, this is the US, but what percentage, prior to COVID, there were about 6 million homes that sold. We're expecting about 4 million now. What percentage of those used an agent or broker? I say agent or broker because God forbid I say agent and in that area they're known as brokers. Like I get things thrown at me. So I just added them together. So what percentage have used an agent? Who says 90%? Okay, hands down 84%. Okay, hands down 77%. 90%. 90%. That means 9 out of 10 people that sell. If we have 4 million homes, 90% of those are going to sold through an agent. If we sell 6 million homes, same thing. We're not selling 6 million homes. I actually don't foresee that ever coming back for a while. Not for a while anyways. Okay, question number two. What percentage of sellers contacted only one agent before finding the right agent they worked with? So they only met with one agent. They didn't meet with 5. They met with one. Who says 31%? Who says 48%? Okay, who says 81%? 81%. 81% of sure, that one struck a nerve with everyone. So let me rephrase this. 9 out of 10 people use an agent. So chances are you find someone who's thinking about selling a home, there's a 90% chance they're going to use someone from our profession. Out of those 90%, 8 out of 10 of them are only going to meet with one of us. That's it, before they list their property. Now, expired listings is a thing. It changes the demographic once they list the property and they don't sell it, and then they get, everybody, every single agent in your market calling them by 7 a.m. when they shouldn't. But that's the initial one. Okay, third one. What is the most important factor for a seller when choosing a real estate agent? Who says commission? Who says reputation? You know what the interesting thing about commission? Who says area knowledge? Okay, some of y'all didn't vote, which means this was a confusing one. Okay, reputation. You know, the interesting thing is, there's always typically a few that raise their hand on commission, but what's interesting is that most people don't. And yet when I'm doing a skills workshop and we're doing like objection handling, guess what objection everybody wants to talk about? See, nobody agrees, or at least mostly nobody agrees, that commission is the most important factor when choosing an agent, but yet everybody wants to practice the rebuttal just in case. Okay, pull out your phones, take a picture of this. So here's where I say that it's uniquely different. You see, reputation of agent is number one by far. Is nearly 2 times a second. So 35% of sellers say that the reputation is the most important thing when choosing agent. Next is agent is honest and trustworthy. Now, my question to you, do you think that sellers are choosing an agent because they have a reputation of being dishonest and not trustworthy? No. So do you think it would be fair if we added those top ones together? Right? So 56%. Okay, so 56% of sellers say that the most important factor when choosing an agent is their reputation of being honest and trustworthy. Then it goes, agent is a friend or family member, 16%. Then knowledge of neighborhood. Then agent has a caring personality and good listener. Then it goes to the agent commission. Do you guys see what this says? This says if you spend time, you don't even have to be like honest and trustworthy. You just have to pretend to be. But if you have a reputation of being honest and trustworthy, you don't even have to listen. You don't even have to act like you care or even listen if you have the reputation of being honest and trustworthy. So here's the total. There are two traits that are on one side but not the other, and it goes to both. So if we look at the sellers, commission is on here. It's not on the buyer side. But look at this. Agent experience is on the buyer side. It's not on the seller side. Isn't that interesting? See, what this says on the seller side is that they're looking for someone who's honest and trustworthy, a good reputation of being honest and trustworthy. Commission's important. It's not that important. You know why it's important? Because we'll talk about this in the second section, but in order to determine value, you have to know what you get, and you also have to know what it costs. That's how you determine value. You have to know what value is. But look over here. Agent experience is up here for the buyers. Commission doesn't even show up. Now, it shows up lower into the numbers, but not in the top, in these top numbers. So if you're new to the business, what this says is that you can compete. Everyone seems to think that agent experience is really important. Not for sellers. If you're new or newer to the business and you don't have that database and you don't have that seller business and you believe that somebody has a leg up on you because they have been in the business longer than you, it doesn't show up in the data. You know what's more important? Awareness. Awareness of having a reputation of being honest and trustworthy. That's where that says. Now, what do you do if you're going to work with a buyer? Because now you have to have experience. Well, if we added these two together on this side, isn't it fair that we add these two together on this side? So what becomes number one now? Agent, a reputation of being honest and trustworthy. Number two becomes agent experience. But that's why you're with the real estate center. If you're newer to the business, it no longer becomes, I helped X amount of people sell in this neighborhood. It's me and my company have sold more homes in this market than the next three competitors combined. It all just comes with the way that you deliver it. And that's why you're with who you're with. So here's what we come up to. 81% of buyers and 87% of sellers, they chose their agent because they know them, they like them, and they trust them. That's the truth. They know them, they like them, and trust them. But notice they know them. They like them. They trust them. Nowhere in the data does it say that you have to know, like, and trust them. Doesn't show. It's not in the data. So I want to talk to you about the modern consumer journey. Now, I've been in the business 28 years this year, actually in July, and I have yet to come across a room that talks about this. So has anyone here in your time in real estate or sales ever heard of the modern consumer journey? And that's a disservice for us to you. Because any learning department, any sales organization, our job is to help you become productive. How do we help you become productive? By making sure that you have knowledge that you can implement into your business that takes a lifetime to gain, but a fraction of that time to learn. But a modern consumer journey is a detailed representation of the consumer's buying process that outlines the steps consumers take on their way to making a purchase. Now, we all know the whole process, the journey process. See, you're just familiar with where it starts at a lead. You go to a lead, you nurture the lead, you convert the lead into an appointment, you get the appointment, you prepare for the property for the market, You work with the buyer. You understand that pathway. The pathway is the same. It's the same no matter where you go. The nuances are the difference. Like in California, I don't know about, but I started my career in Utah where the contract package was this thick, and when I went to California, it turned into this thick. It was like a Bible. So that's the difference, is the unique differences, but the process is the same. The same thing happens before it turns into a lead. You see, there's a point in time where a consumer is going to be ready, willing, and wanting to speak with an agent. But then there's a point in time, it could be days, weeks, months, or even years, that they're going to start thinking about moving, selling, or buying. That middle portion is called the discovery period. And then let me ask you this, has anyone ever heard of the moments of truth? Okay, it's moments of truth in advertising or moments of truth in marketing. And originally there were two. There were two moments of truth. These were first termed in the late 70s by the CEO of Scandinavian Airlines. I believe they're now American Airlines. But they're key decision points in a consumer's journey when perception turns into action. There are key points in a decision or in a journey where perception turns into action. The first one is called FMOT, first moment of truth. The first moment of truth is when the consumer encounters a product or service for the first time. Now, just so we're clear, you are that product and service. Actually, you offer the service, you are the product, or you could go both ways, it doesn't matter. But you are that product and service. And it's the first time they encounter it. The first time they realize that you were born, that you exist on planet Earth. That was the first time. Other than that, they don't know. Now, I want to ask you guys something. Has there ever been a time where you got off work and you drove your neighborhood, you're coming home and you're coming through your neighborhood, and there was a house for sale, the sale sign went up and it wasn't yours? Anyone, that ever happened to anyone? Stings, doesn't it? And then the second time it's staying, and then the third time it's staying. But it's not their fault. They didn't know that you were in real estate, because that's the thing, is if you ever went and asked them why they didn't list the property with you, you're like, gosh, I would have listed my property with you. I didn't know you were selling real estate. I didn't know what you do. That's our fault. But anyways, that's the first moment of truth. The second moment of truth is when the consumer chooses a product or service and has their firsthand experience with it. Okay, and they know that you exist. They know that you were born. They know that you sell real estate. They're like, you know what, I'll give it a go. And then they experience how things went. Now, this goes back into what I said, is when it comes to testimonials, that goes into the third moment of truth, is the consumer's feedback based on their experiences. Now, that's gotten a little out of control because it's so easy. It used to be in the United States, we only had like the Better Business Bureau. Like you could actually, voices didn't really go that far. But now if you give good service, you have to do the foreshadowing to get that testimonial. That aligns with what they're going to do anyways. You just got to get that micro commitment. Otherwise, you just have to get poor service and they'll just talk no matter what. But that's what the third moment of truth is. But then there came out a fourth moment of truth. Now we're in the realm of prequels. So it's actually the zero moment of truth. A small little company about 14 years ago coined a book called ZMOT, the zero moment of truth. Anyone recognize these colors? It's Google, Alphabet. Now, if there's any company or any entity on planet Earth that knows more about you than you, it's them. And what they had said is that things have changed. There's now a zero moment of truth that happens before the first moment of truth. And that's the online research a consumer conducts about a product or service before making a buying decision. Think about that. That's the discovery period. So if we sum this up, 43% of buyers began their home search online. 100% of buyers used the internet as a tool. 51, they found the home, not you. 90% used an agent. 81 only met with one agent, but yet we also know that 56% of sellers say they're only going to work with someone who they know, like, and trust. And yet, according to Google in that same report, it says that 88% of all consumers, it doesn't matter if it's a house, shoes, a mortgage, a car, 88% of consumers have already made the decision of what they're going to buy and who they're going to work with before they meet with them. That's what the data says. Y'all got Amazon here? Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I was surprised that the steering was on the left side of the car and it was not on the right. I'm kidding. But isn't that wild? Now I want you to think about the last time you bought something. You went to Amazon. You spent way too much time in the testimonials and the reviews that you should. I had to buy some new batteries for my car fob, and I actually had to spend, I spent way too much time looking at the package deal versus the no name versus, ultimately I went with Prime. So, but isn't that wild? Think about this. What does this say? Ladies and gentlemen, this says that your next listing appointment, it's already began. It began based off of your digital profile online. It began with all the questions that all the consumers have, the sellers and the buyers, about the process, about the local neighborhood, that they're not finding online with you speaking to it. And that's what we're really going to be talking about. It comes back to awareness. How do you generate awareness? How do you make sure that you're that first moment of truth? But then, how do you become the influencer? How do you become the authority? Because it's not just about having awareness, it's about having the authority. Because with authority, you get the reputation of being honest and trustworthy. It is something that just doesn't happen accidentally. It's something that you can strategically implement into your business. And what I was told is that we have 80 chairs in here, so we have like 75 or so in here. If you implement these next 5 steps, you will see a change in your business. Why? Because no matter where I go, only a few people do it. A lot of people take, steps 1 and 2. They do a little bit of a little bit. But if you do a little bit of a little bit, you will see a change in your business. And that was my promise to you. That's why Dean flew me out here. So let's talk about this. The 5 steps to becoming the agent every seller calls first. Now, it could be every buyer's calls first, but like I said, don't really want to talk about it. If you get the seller, you get the buyer. If you do it right. Okay, step number 1, claim your primary market area. When I first got into real estate, we didn't really have GPS. We had the disc that you had to get with your car. You guys remember that? You had to get the disc into your car. In California, we have had something called the Thomas Guide. And it was just like a really, really thick book that you had to know the Dewey Decimal System to figure out how to get across the street. So, but this is my primary market area. Now, I encourage you to claim a primary market area. Now, notice I said claim. Words have meaning. I didn't say select. I didn't say choose. I didn't say consider. I said claim your primary market area. See, claiming your primary market area means that anyone who sells a house or lists a property in your claimed area is poaching. You guys ever watch Yellowstone? Anyone watching Yellowstone here? Okay, now I'm not saying that you should take them to the train station. If you know, you know. But you should feel a little bit uncomfortable that somebody is poaching business on your turf. Now, you go back 28 years, when I got into the business, typically there was an agent that controlled a neighborhood. And God forbid you go into that neighborhood thinking about doing it, they'll key your car. It was like legit. But what has happened over time is that technology has evolved and it's great. It's allowed people to expand their market area. But the challenge with that is that salespeople, I'm not just picking on our industry, what happens is they didn't know any boundaries. So they kept expanding. So now they're the real estate expert of Earth because that's their market area. Whereas what the data says is that's not what they're looking for. So I'm saying that you need to claim your primary market area. You should start with your home as the center point. And you should start with 300 active properties. Now, not every market has 300 properties. I live in Southern California. We're very dense. We don't have backyards. We have patios. So we can do that within a 3 to 5 mile area. You have to adjust for yourself. And then there's no dominant agent. How do you do that? You do the research. Here's what I'll promise you. If you go and you look at your market area, you will not find a dominant agent. You won't. Now, you go back in time 25 years, 25, 30 years, you'll find everyone dominant. That was really hard to get started in that time. But now, not so much. So you got to claim your primary market. Now this is what everyone ever see Independence Day, the movie Independence Day? Okay, so the main character, Will Smith, he was an F-18 pilot, and they sent him from El Toro. So El Toro, the former Marine Corps Air Base, is where I live. That's where this dot is right here. And I just wanted to give that reference to where it is. Now what they did is they decommissioned that in 1994, and now it's called the Great Park area. It's a great park. It's luxury living. It's really nice to live. But that's where I live. So if the zip code, you got to know your numbers. So in that area right there is my zip code. It has 25,000 homes, 279 active homes for sale, 599 units that sold in the last 12 months. So that gives us an annual turnover of 2.7. Now the average sales price is high there, so you could probably make this work. Any median price point, you just can't afford to do that market area. And the only reason why you could do an area now this time is just because of the reach of digital. That's the only reason. But to focus on that area doesn't make sense with a 2.7% churn rate. So the top listing agent out of 599 sales in there, they only listed and sold 23 homes. 23 out of 599. Now, they sold more outside of that area, but I'm just saying in this area is what they sold. So I wouldn't choose this market. So this is actually my neighborhood. This is about 3 miles. It's just my neighborhood. There are 5,500 homes, but look what happens. 152 active units, 285 homes sold in the last 12 months. Half of the zip code. Annual turnover is 5.2%. Now, the interesting thing when you start looking at the competition is that the top listing agent is not the zip code, the person who leads the zip code, but the top listing agent only did 12 units out of 285. That's a 4.2% market share. Isn't that wild? I would bet dollars to dimes that there is no expert who lives around your market area. Now, I want to do a thought experience here. Is it possible that somebody who lives within a 5-mile radius of where you live, is it possible that someone might be thinking about selling their home? Is it possible? There's a 100% probability that they don't know you exist, you're not getting that business. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about right here. Now, does anyone know what it takes to dominate a market? Top listing agent has 4.2%. Anyone knows what it takes to dominate a market? Anything over 30% is dominated. Any 20 to 30% is controlled. 10 to 20% is competitive. Under 10% is an open market. No single agent or company dominates, ideal for entry and growth. I challenge all of you today, take your home, do a radius search, see how many active homes, see how many homes sold in the last 12 months, go into the sales, just take out a pen. Actually, you can take out the report, you can give it to Claude or ChatGPT and have it do it for you. Or, if you don't know how to do that, just start writing down the names that you see and just do the hash marks. I bet you will not find anyone who has over 10%. Again, 25 years ago you would, but not today, because things have changed, technology have changed it. Okay, so that's step number 1. Claim your primary market area. Your primary market area is where you live. Do a circle around it. Chances are there's enough business not being done. There's a lot of onesie-twosies in there, but there's a lot of business that's being done that you could capture if you focused on it. So step number 2, identify your ideal client avatar. So the ideal client avatar is the customer profile, the best case scenario of your business. Has there ever been a time, might be now, has there ever been a time that you guys had a client that you were thinking about firing? Ever happened to you guys? And then you talk yourself out of it, right? You're like, God, I just showed them like 30 properties. I only need to show them like 2 more, and they're probably going to sell it or buy it. Like that happened. Okay, so your ideal client avatar is actually is the polar opposite. It's like they're most like you. You ever notice that I want you to think about your top 5 friends. What you'll find is that they're most like you. Your vocabulary is the same. Your style's pretty much the same. Around the same age. You still have, your kids are the same generation. They're most like who you are. Now, through sales training and skills, you can change your persona to really be a chameleon and attract more people. I would encourage you that your ideal client avatar start out with the people who are your demographic that's most like your friends. You're going to attract them naturally. In fact, people who most like you will likely live in the same neighborhood as you too. But here's a thing. They have to own property. If you're going to sell a lot of homes, they got to own property. It's just, or they want to buy property, but let's focus on the owner property. They have to live in your market area. Yes, it's great that we can get referrals, but we also want to make sure that you're just getting the business. Referral is supposed to be, cream. They want to sell. Now look at these first two. They're data points. I would guess that most of you in this room, if I challenged you, that you could get all of the property owner information around your neighborhood within the next 30 minutes. True? So how do you find out they want to sell? Because that's a psychographic category. That's not a data category. If it was a data category, then we'd have a lot more competition. So that leads us into step number 3. Create multiple lead magnets. So a lead magnet is a valuable free resource offered to prospects in exchange for their contact information. Now, this has happened to all of you, as long as you're online. Maybe not your Android users, but iPhone users probably have you. I'm just kidding. Has there ever been a time that you were online and an offer came up and says, free report, how to turn lead into gold, free, guaranteed? Ever happen to you guys? And they're like, oh, or lose weight and lose 50 pounds in 5 minutes, guaranteed? Okay, they asked you for their email address and their name, and their name, or your name and email address. That went into their database. Okay, what I'm saying is you take that same proven method and you apply it to real estate. And this is what you do. Create multiple deliverable assets focused on your ideal client avatar that will position you as the authority. How to sell your X home fast and for top dollar. Now, what you would do is how to sell your Toronto home fast and for top dollar. Or you would do how to sell your Markham house fast and for top dollar. See, the guts is pretty much the same. That was, by the way, created by ChatGPT-1. Now they're on like 5. So you could do that in about 5 minutes. But do you think if somebody wanted to buy a home in California, they'd download the report? Probably not. But if that was how to sell your Toronto home or how to sell your XYZ neighborhood home, the more granular you get, the fewer leads that you get, but the higher quality you get. So if you have a neighborhood that you specifically work and you farm, and you say how to sell put the neighborhood in there, home, fast and for top dollar, then what's going to happen is that the people who sign up for that, they're going to be a higher quality lead than if you just use Toronto, or worse, Earth. So that's what you want to do. Now, there are other ones you can do. There are 3 sources of business that in every market I go to are consistent regardless of the economy. Death, divorce, and default. So you want to have a guide that says how to sell a home. You want to have a guide on how to buy a home. And they should be legitimate guides. And the great thing about this, if you've been in real estate longer than, say, 3 minutes, that you're already asked about how to sell a home and how to buy a home. So now you have a free report that you can actually help people, and it actually acts as a sales letter. But the other 3, death, divorce, and default, death. Apparently, just by owning real estate, you don't become a vampire and live forever. You die. And when you die, your heirs typically sell the property. Okay? That's probably within the area of where you live. Those types of transactions are there. Default. No matter how great the market is or isn't, people are always on hard times. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the foreclosure laws are here, and I'm betting dollars to dime that a lot of real estate agents and competitors, they don't know either, but that's a specialty you could have. Divorce. One thing that COVID in the United States taught us is that when couples spend a lot of time together, they find out they don't like each other, and so they get divorced. We saw divorces spike, and so a lot of homes came onto the market. I would imagine that's true here too. Now, I only did I know specifically I did 2 divorce transactions in my career, and that was good enough for me because you have to do 2 times the work. And if it was the wife that recommended you have to fight the husband. If the husband that fights, and it's just not even worth it. So these are the guides. So check this out. The complete home buyer's guide for XYZ neighborhood, the the probate property survival guide that if you had on your website, people would download. The 7 costly mistakes divorcing homeowners make. I bet you someone would download that. And then you just say, and how to avoid them. You can emphasize what market you live in. And then the homeowner survival guide on the default guide. Now, my expertise was the default space. Here's one thing I can share with you about the default space. It takes a long time in California to foreclose on a property. And there's a lot of different options that sellers can do to save their home from foreclosure. It used to be a negotiation with the bank. Now it's more of a loan application. So you can look at somebody's finances and you can determine whether or not there's even a chance that they could actually save their home aside from getting caught up all the way. But what I found, and this comes into human behavior, is that as long as you put forth the effort, you win. If you are willing to help somebody in probably arguably one of the most stressful times of their life, and you're not asking for a handout, you're not asking for business, you're just there to help them. Most of the people who actually enter, again, I'm talking about the United States, most people who enter into the foreclosure process end up can't saving their home. But if you're that one person that's helping them, guide them, sincerely trying to help them, if they save their home, guess who they're going to refer to their friends and family? You became their best friend, you became their go-to agent. Now, guess what happens if they don't or unable to sell their home or save their home? Well, you still get that, but now you get the listing. Now, I've found in every single market where you live as a center point, you draw 5 miles around it, even 10 miles, depends on the density of the market, you will find every single one of those types of business in the market. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are recession-proof. People die no matter what. Doesn't matter what the stock market's doing. They get divorced. Actually, if the stock market's going down, probably good for business. So, but these are the 5 guides. Now, very easy to make. Took a long time pre-AI. It'll take you an afternoon. These are the 2 you need to focus on, though. Everybody here should have a how to buy a home and how to sell a home. Every single one of you. It should be prominent on your website. It should not be free. It should be free as in not costing anything, but they should have to trade their email address and their name for it. Why? Because that's your database. Most top agents, and I've interviewed a lot of them, their database is their primary source for getting business. The problem with the database is that if you're not focusing on growing your database, what happens in a contracting market, you think that you're like awesome. You know, your database stays the same, but there's so much opportunity that so many people know each other that you get more referrals. And so you're getting a lot of business and you're like, things are great. But then in a contracting market, the opposite holds true. If your database is still the same and the market's contracting, there's fewer opportunities, fewer resources coming in. So the only option you have is to increase your database. For the most part, I'm not worried about most real estate agents converting from their database to closing. My focus is lead generation to fill the database. And that's what your focus should be. Lead generation solves all problems. And telephone prospecting, it's not scalable in a digital world. Okay, step number 4. That leads into the database. You have to nurture your database. You have to stay top of mind for repeat and referral business, which means you have to email weekly, snail mail monthly, call quarterly, and retarget. Now, laws are different no matter where I go. Emails, if someone opts into your emails, you're probably going to be okay. Mailing, I know that there are some wonky laws about mailing to soliciting. I think that the physical monthly newsletter that has practically gone extinct is a really great way to stand out. One thing's for certain, this is all salespeople, everybody does free and everybody does easy. You make something free and it's like 1 or 2 steps, everybody's going to do it, you have a lot of competition. You make things a little bit difficult, make it like 3 steps or more and actually have to mail something, nobody's going to do it. You've eliminated like 95% of the competition. But everything has to have a call to action on it. So email weekly, snail mail monthly, call quarterly. These are your clients. Now, I'm much different of a trainer than what you'll find in, I guess, my profession. See, they want you to call and actually have a conversation with them. They come up with the whole acronym of Ford questions. Anyone know the Ford questions? Family, occupation, what's our? Recreation and dreams. Okay, so you're calling someone, and then you go through these Ford questions. The truth of the matter is, and you guys will relate to this, the further you get away from a transaction, the more likely your call is not getting answered. See, the purpose of the call is not to have a conversation with them. The purpose of the call is to become top of mind. That happens with caller ID. Even those of you who have the Android, it has every single phone number that's actually could possibly call them, or they call you, or you call them. That's your caller ID. You're walking around with it. So it is just as effective for you to be top of mind if you just call and hang up. That's it. Just call and hang up. Why? Because now it's top of mind. They're going to think it's a butt dial anyways. Number 4 is retargeting. Now, you said you have Amazon. So, has there ever been a time you guys were looking at shoes and then the shoes followed you around the internet? All the time. You can do the same thing for your free reports. Someone hits your website, how to buy a home in XYZ neighborhood, they don't do it, and then what happens is it triggers it and it follows them around the internet for like 30 days or however long that you want it to, until they actually download it, and then it turns off that campaign and launches a new one. Because once you turn off that campaign, you want a nurturing campaign. What's the nurturing campaign? What content you send them? Well, you send them the content based on how they entered into your funnel. If they entered in on a default report, guess what you send them? Stuff about defaults. What kind of stuff? All the questions they have about selling real estate and defaults that they're going to ask you that you want to make sure they know. Why? Because that makes you the authority. That makes you the trusted and reliable source of information. That's where now retargeting is not that expensive. When I was first getting into the business, who's been in the business less than a year? Anyone? Okay. For those of you, we used to have these things called newspapers. And in newspapers, we had classified ads. These were just like little display ads, kind of like, I can't even use Craigslist as an example anymore. They were like Facebook Marketplace, but in black and white, 2-dimension. And it costs like $1,000 for you just to you're like going to Las Vegas, you're just rolling the dice. You're throwing $1,000 at a display ad, hoping to God that somebody calls you on it. Now that was when gold was like at $30. Now it's like $5,000. So you can see that. But if you just took that same amount of money and you apply it to retargeting, you'll get such a tremendous return on it. Now here's the thing. I said everybody will do easy. It's not hard, but it's not difficult either. Spend some time on YouTube. Just go there. You'll get a step-by-step process on practically how to do anything. But you just have to do it. Most people don't know where to start. So those are the 4 things. That leads into number 5. So I think that everybody believes that content is important. Everyone believes that it's important to have awareness. It's important for people who own real estate in your primary market area. They need to know that you exist on planet Earth. That means that they are aware. You know, a lot of trainers, I still hear it to this day in my own building. I hear a lot of trainers saying that your Rolodex is your phone. You guys ever hear that? See, I disagree. I don't believe that every single phone number in your Rolodex is your sphere of influence. Why? Because I have America's tires in my phone. I have a lot of different phone numbers in there. I had to go and get new tires about 3 or 4 months ago, and I put their phone number in there because if it didn't, it goes straight to voicemail. I get called so much that I've configured my phone to just send any identified call straight to voicemail. Doesn't even ring. You guys, some of you probably have done the same thing. But awareness is super important. Authority is important. Not everybody in your phone is your sphere of influence. Why? Because in order to have a sphere of influence, you have to have influence over your sphere. I mean, it's in the title. But it used to be, even in our curriculum, and I've had a hard time changing this, is that in most curriculum, your sphere of influence is people who know you and you know them. That's not what that is. Influence is somebody who has influence over decisions. Now that could be in 2026. We have a lot of influencers. You have TikTok, you have Facebook, you have YouTube. You have a lot of influencers that people go. You have pundits. A lot of people who are influenced that don't know each other personally. But it comes from content. How do you build authority? Well, we just talked about how you get awareness. We talked about the importance of the consumer journey. We talked about behavior. Now we need to know, how do you get that authority? And it comes from creating content. Anyone know what the most popular form or what most popular form of content is right now? Blog, email, video. In fact, video is so important that there's only one platform that transcends all demographics. Anyone want to guess what it is? YouTube. Every single age and every single niche and every single demographic uses YouTube at a high level. TikTok doesn't work with the 60, 70-year-old. YouTube does, and it works with both of those. So if you're going to choose a content, if you're going to choose a medium, you should choose video. But Brett, I don't like video. You're going to have to get over it. I don't know any other way to put it. You have to get over it because that's what the consumer wants. How else are they going to get to know you, like you, and trust you? They do it through video. So this is something that I had created. This is not shared amongst any of our brands, nor do I share it with any of our brands. Why? Because I'm competitive and I want to see them lose. I want to see you guys win. So this is a reverse target. Has there ever been a time you guys sat down and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do a video, or I'm going to do a blog? You should do a video and then a blog. But have there ever been a time you sat down and then you keep sitting and then you keep sitting and then you start thinking like, I'm really boring, and you don't have anything to talk, and then you did that for like 20 minutes and you left and you went to lunch? You know there's only two activities that realtors typically put in their schedule, right? Lunch and happy hour. Universal no matter where you go. So, but here's what it is, and we have to start out. Have you ever been on YouTube at night, insomnia, and you hit a topic, and then you find the person that you like, and they're like, oh, and if you want to learn more about here, click here. Or if you want to know, click here. And then you do it. And then it keeps on going. You keep going further down the rabbit hole. And then your alarm goes off and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to work. That ever happen to you guys? Wouldn't it be great if somebody did that to you in your videos? This is how you do it. So we have the area, neighborhood, and property. So there's a lot of properties that make up neighborhoods. There's a lot of neighborhoods that make up the area. Area, shopping centers, school districts. It could be regional parks. These are all of the things that happen that cater to the area, the zip code would be. Then you have the neighborhood. Now, we're talking about the order in which you create content. Now, if you don't know how to create content, all you have to do is go to your AI of choice, tell them what you want, and you need a plan, and it's going to do it to you in like 30 seconds. So area, shopping center. Shopping center that caters to a lot of the area. Go do a video on it. Go do a video that has like your top favorite stores. Go do a video on it where you buy your tomatoes. Now, I bring that up for a very sincere reason. It might be a Canadian thing because my wife is from Toronto, but God forbid I go to the wrong store to buy tomatoes. I will go right back out and go to another store. You can't even return the ones that you get. So, but that's what the area is. That's the content that people want. People who are buying into the neighborhood, you have the knowledge that they want. That's why they talk to you. If they didn't have it, then if they already had it, then they wouldn't be searching for it. Neighborhoods. Now we're going a little bit granular. Now I encourage you to choose your neighborhood. Choose a neighborhood to the north, south, east, and west. 5 neighborhoods. Start with your neighborhood first. Don't bite off more than you can chew. The reason why you do what you don't do is you do a neighborhood, your neighborhood, and then drive 30 minutes to your second neighborhood. Because now you've segmented your activities. You want to make sure that you are building out this sphere of influence, this business that's growing and scaling. And if you start with your local area, what's going to happen is it's going to start to expand. That's neighborhoods. Property is where things change. Now, I don't know the laws here in Canada. So I'm just going to share with you the laws that we have in the United States. I think they're pretty much similar. We have the First Amendment. First Amendment gives you the freedom of speech, and it actually gives the freedom of the press. And I live in Southern California, so you hear about this all the time because of the paparazzi. Now, I encourage everybody to be an unbiased reporter on real estate. I want you to take your real estate hat off. I don't want you to have any agenda I just want you to become the reporter of your market area. That's it. What are you going to report on? Property, neighborhoods, and area. When you get the area, do 3 or 4 videos. Get the neighborhoods, 3 or 4 videos. Now, area could be like high schools. I told you my daughter's going to high school. We have like 3 private schools, our high school. There's a lot of different schools to choose from. You go to middle school, you have elementary. There's a lot of content that can be done for areas for schools. And guess what parents with kids are looking for? Now, living in Irvine, I think we have the most parks per capita than any other state. Now, I grew up in Utah. It used to be churches. So I switched and now it's parks. But if you have kids, those are the things that are important to you. Youth, I coach my son's flag football. That's a big deal. So we're always searching for where tournaments and things like that. So there's a lot of things that you can do for area that will attract the demographic and to attract the people who live in your market area. And the way that you capture them is through those 3 reports. Now the neighborhoods, HOAs. How much are the HOAs? What do you get for the HOA? How many things can you rent out? The clubhouse. How many pools do they have? All of that goes into neighborhoods. But when you get into property, that's where all of your groundwork happens. Every market typically has new listings, off-market listings, expired listings, everything, right? So if you started reporting on that, then you would actually start becoming the authority of your local market. Now I want you to imagine, I want to come back around. I said 300 properties where I live, and there's a number for that. Now that's not easy. What I had trained new agents to do, because they have time on their hands, is to preview 5 properties a day. Anyone physically preview properties still? Physically. Good. You're doing the activity anyways. Now I think that is the one activity that has been lost to time that we have done our new agents a disservice by getting them out of. Getting out and previewing property used to be a necessity. You didn't know any information about anything unless you did that. But now it's looked at, I can just sit in front of the MLS. I can just sit in front of, get the information online. Not the same. I'll prove it to you. Has there ever been a time that you've driven past a house and it didn't look like the pictures? Now think about this. The nicest pictures are the ones that get put onto the MLS. So when you come across a really crappy picture, that was the best in the bunch. Chances are it's not going to be that great. But here's the thing. When you preview property, take out your phone. In the States, I encourage you to stand on public property, not on private property. Private property, you need permission. Public property, you don't. So if you stand in the middle of the street, you stand on the sidewalk, not on the edge of their grass, but on the sidewalk, you pull out your phone and you do a 90-second video. Hi, this is Brett Matsuura, your favorite Coldwell Banker real estate in XYZ neighborhood. Today I'm standing out in front of 123 Main Street. It's new on to the market. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's listed by XYZ real estate by XYZ agent. Why would I actually say the competitor's company name and agent name? Why would I do that? Because I'm an unbiased reporter. You want to make sure that we're not selling or marketing somebody else's property? Give out all the information. You know what's the important thing is what people remember? They remember the reporter. They don't remember the name in the report. Now, if you preview 5 properties a day, 5 days a week, 25 properties. That's 100 properties a month. Based on my example, in 3 months' time, if no new homes came onto the market, in 3 months' time, you will be the one person who has seen every single home on the market. Your knowledge about what's going on in the neighborhood surpasses everybody's. And 30 years ago, you'd only be able to use that on an analog channel. You'd only be able to talk to someone one at a time. But now, you pull out your phone and do a 90-second video. Not only does it live in infamy, but what do you think that will do with helping you get that listing appointment? Or not the listing appointment, but win the listing. Now, even if the algorithm doesn't help you, and it will, even if the algorithm doesn't help you, then the fact that you have 300 videos online about a market area this big, you are now the reigning real estate authority in that market. You guys agree? Does that sound like a good idea? Start with one. Just start with one. Anyone know why I said 90 seconds?
No.
90 seconds is the limit you can do on YouTube to make it a short. The algorithm for a YouTube short is different than the algorithm for a long. See, the algorithm for the long should be educational. Algorithm for the short, it's meant to go out and find you people. It's meant to go out and find you people. So you do those 90 seconds, and then maybe at the end of the week you do a long form, take all those 90 seconds and put them into one. Now you're going to have to record twice. You're going to have to do one vertical and one horizontal, because that's just how it works. You might say to yourself, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, but that's just how it works. Okay, but that's step number 5. So here's the list. What's that?
So 90 seconds, what should be the shortest amount of time? Shortest to long?
Oh, so the question is, what's the shortest amount of time? We know the longest, but what's the shortest? I would say that you're worried about the longest, because just to say your name and to say the prop, give the address, give the details of it, you're already into it like 60 seconds. And when you go over 90 seconds, don't delete it and re-record it. One's good enough, because that's what's going to happen. Just run it and let it cut off. You need to you'll get into the swing of things.
So what's the purpose of the video? Is that just your unbiased opinion of the property? Like, what message are you making?
Thank you. So the question was, what's the purpose of the video? What are we communicating? So the purpose of the video, number 1, is to build awareness and authority. Because what we see in the data, and I think everyone knows this to be true, and I want you to just look at this from your perspective. If I used to use this when I was in sales, because commission's always an issue, it's always a sticking point. I feel that hiring a real estate agent is a lot like hiring an attorney. And the only time you really need an attorney is when something is serious. Most people, if you get a traffic ticket, you're not going to go and hire this high-powered law firm, typically. But if you were faced with a serious crime, whether you're innocent or guilty, well, that just changes the whole demographic, right? So the way that you actually build authority is by building content. And if, in fact, using that attorney as a reference, nobody wants to hire the generalist. Everybody wants to hire the specialist. That's true if you're going to the doctor. That's true if you have legal problems. That's true if you have tax problems. It's true if you, that's my sentiment. Now, the data says that there's a bell curve, right? So you have a bell curve that comes off, slash off the front 4%, slash off the other 4%. Those are the people who are the outliers. They're the ones who base everything on commission. They're the ones who are the opposite of everything. Focus on the bell curve. Focus on the people in the middle. There's enough people there to do that. But the purpose of the content is to build awareness, to build authority, and generate leads. That's it. Answer your question?
Not entirely. I understand the purpose, but would you communicate your likes or dislikes, or it's just
so more about what is the content of the video? What do you put into it?
If it's property, I like the fact that it's a corner lot, blah blah blah. Would you say some things like this, or are you just reporting this is 1 bedroom, 2 bath, whatever?
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So when you've been in real estate long enough, what you come to find out is that there are no new questions. 90% of all questions are the same. Typically, they revolve around what do you get versus what you pay for? What do you do for your service? Why am I choosing you for anything? Why are you different than the agent down the street? Why are you charging 6% versus 5%? There's that whole thing to it. So when you're doing the content of the video, it's very strategic to give the information that the typical buyer is going to ask you anyway. What's the price? What's your opinion on price? Now, I'm pretty sure you guys can give your opinion on price. If the market's going this way, and the property is listed, be honest about it. So if it's on a corner lot and it's desirable, say it's on a corner lot. If they list the property and it's overvalued, give your opinion on it being overvalued. Now, some people would push back on me saying, well, why would I want to do that? See, my thought is if it's overpriced, then the likelihood of it actually selling at that price means it's more likely to expire than sell. And I would really like to have a video documentary 3 months prior, that if the seller would have listed with me 3 months prior, they would have sold the home first. And it would have saved them more money. And the opposite's true too. So I would say just be honest about your opinion of the property that you can put into 90 seconds, and then use the longer form video to be more about the neighborhood and such. Did that help? Okay. Okay, so I will make sure that you guys get that. In fact, I'm going to do something better than that.
We have some commercial agents in here, so the framework is the same.
So I've done my fair share of a residential agent doing commercial deals, and y'all don't like that. So I realize that. So how does commercial, I think commercial will benefit more from this activity than residential. The reason why is because commercial is it's not as marketing dominated, from my opinion, as it is when it comes to residential agents. You see residential agents doing open houses, they're all over the place. So I think there's a big opportunity for commercial agents just because of the lack of activity online. But the same philosophy that we just talked about here is the same thing when you start talking about commercial. See, the thing is that commercial is no different than residential because there's a person on the other side. It's all about behavior. How are people making decisions? Now, typically commercial, they're looking more at the numbers. And from what I understand, you guys don't work weekends. You're off at 5. That's what I hear. I don't think that's true in anything that has real estate in it. But the fact that you can actually talk about a commercial property or a commercial building or educate investors, we know where we know where they're going. Just because they're a commercial client doesn't mean they're not using the internet, doesn't mean they're not making their decisions, doesn't mean that they're working with people who they know, like, and trust, doesn't mean that they, I would say that most commercial clients, they want to know, like, and trust somebody. They want them to be the authority. They want them to know what they're doing. So the same principle applies. Okay. Raise your hand if you learned something. Okay. Implement it. And I'm going to help you with this. If you are willing to take the survey, tell me what you liked. Tell me what you learned and tell me what you're going to implement, just like what I shared with you. If you scan this, you're going to be able to download the AI Authority Edge playbook. Just so you guys know, I don't do this session digitally. The only time this ever happens is live. The reason why I do that is because I'm not interested in diluting or making competition for everybody. This is going to give you a step-by-step process of everything we just went over. And then it's also going to give you the prompt that you can go put into AI. It's going to interview you, and it's going to punch out everything you need. You're going to get like 80% of everything that you need to get done by getting this manual. By downloading this, it's up to you to start engaging with it. I've made it as simple as possible as we can. I'll leave this up, but so I got 1:33. We're about an hour and a half in. Dean, I'm ready for you guys. You guys ready for a break?
Good. Thank you.
All right.
What a great first half. For the second half, so washrooms on the second floor. There's 2 of them. There is one here. There is another one on the 3rd floor. I just want to make sure it's all set up properly, so I'm going to run up there now. Coffee, network break. Everybody in the back, that's Robert Lyons. He owns the network brew downstairs. So we've got fresh coffee downstairs and the world's best donut waiting for you. And it's big. If you don't eat it, you got to take it home with you. So we're going to break for 20 minutes. And then we'll be back up here for the incredible second half to wrap this up. Let's give Brett a round of applause. Okay, good. Please go downstairs and grab your coffee. and your chocolate donut, okay?
Really good.
Yeah.
Good too. They're all engaged.
You're welcome.
I got questions for you.
I got answers.
Oh, tonight? Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good.
Great content.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to put a bow on it afterwards on this next section. You're welcome. Sounds like you're doing a lot of the stuff that I was talking about. Yeah? Thank you.
Enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do video, and it is important.
Oh, it's super
and
important.
You have to get over yourself.
Gotta get over yourself.
Yeah, that's what I said to my son. I said, I don't want to do it. He said, just
I
get
don't-
over yourself.
I don't know any other way to put it.
Yeah, that's it.
So, come on in. Yeah. How's everything going so far? Amazing or what?
Thank you.
Show you the intellect that this brand and this network really has, and we're going to be. Everybody with me? And we're going to be tapping into it more and more and more. As I've been learning more, Coldwell Banker University is offered through CBDES. Does everybody have their access through CBDES? Yeah. Now, I know we got incredible trainers who bring you a lot of content. Just incredible. The best in the industry, both Brittany and Florette. And, but CBDesk, you get your login through CBDesk, you go into the learning portal, and there's all kinds of sessions. The agent helping agents is something that you should really try and participate on it once a month. You could pay for a training platform like that. It costs you $1,000 a month, easy. It's all in Coldwell Banker University through CBDesk. Make sure you contact Crayola and get access to it, because it's all there, and you have access to it in Canada as well. Okay. So let's give Brett another round of applause for phase 2 here.
All right, thanks everyone. Questions. Let's start off there. Anyone have any questions about the prior session, or did I answer them all on the break? Right here.
There's a question that keeps going around about a video
Okay.
and what to talk about. Like, I think quick tips people like. Have you found anything in the States that people do with videos that are they?
Okay. So the question was, what types of videos do we create, right? Okay. So any video is going to be good video starting out. Now, one thing I want all of you to understand, because one of the things that I said is that you have to get over the whole video thing. I don't like doing it. Whether you like doing it, kind of irrelevant if you're in the business, if you want to get more business from it. One thing I think everybody needs to understand is that you're going to suck. The first video you do is going to be absolutely horrible, and that's okay because nobody's going to watch it anyways. But then the second one's going to be better, and the third one's going to be better, and the fourth one's going to be better, and it's that progressive getting better is what matters. So to answer your question is you have to go through the process to figure out your own voice. Tips? Yes. I would say that depending on how many transactions or how many years you've been in the business, I shared with you that, in my opinion, 90% of all questions are the same. 90% of the questions that sellers will ask you are generally the same. Doesn't matter where you're at. You know, what's your marketing plan? What do you do? How are you doing open houses? What's your commission rate? All of those are the same. Same thing with buyers. All of them are the same. The 10% of the questions that aren't the same, those are the wacky questions, the random ones that just come out that you just have to answer, that you're like, God, that was stupid. You know, there is such thing as a dumb question. And the people who had said that there's no such thing as a dumb question was never in a position to actually answer a lot of questions. So, but you still have to answer them. So take those 90% tips, how to prepare a home for sale. Yes. Create a whole video on how to prepare your home for sale to get top dollar in XYZ neighborhood. Two things happen for that. Number one is that people are searching for it and they're going to get to know you, like you, trust you. Number two is that you don't have to repeat yourself anymore because you can just send them to the video And then they're going to get to know you, like you, and trust you. And the other great thing with that is that they're not going to debate with you on what you're doing because you already did it. They can't debate with the video. So the target that I shared with you, start with that. Start with the area. Start with, if you're going to use your home as the center point, go to the shopping center that you like the most, that you know the most about. Talk about it. How long did it take you to drive from point A to B? What is it in that shopping center that you like? These are the things that people who are buying in the area, it's the little nuanced things that they, in California, it could take me either 20 minutes or 2 weeks to get somewhere. And it depends on what time I'm going at. Those are the small little nuanced things that you need. The shortcut in your neighborhoods that people wouldn't know. So just try to put in your mind what it would be like to move into another area. And you guys all have a good understanding of the questions that people have because they ask you. Take those and digitize them, because if they're asking you those questions, chances are they've already searched them. And thankfully, we don't have a professional demographic that is doing mass video right now. We all understand that it's important, but nobody is really, it hasn't really taken edge to it, even though everyone knows how important it is. Does that answer your question, I hope? That was a really long answer for a very short question. Sorry.
You asked me 90 seconds always, not shorter than 90
seconds. If it's more than 90 seconds, YouTube's automatically going to make it a long form. So you have to put it within that 90 seconds in order for it to be a short form. And that has everything to do with the way that you want the algorithm. If you do a short form, the algorithm is going to go out and search for people for you. It's not as, its mission is different than a long form one. So no, not 90 seconds always. Like if you're going to do a video on the neighborhood, so do the property video for like 90 seconds and then do like a weekly or bi-weekly one that's longer, horizontal, that could just maybe give a sum up the neighborhood. Question?
Not so much a question, but a comment, because I do a lot of social media, and all the questions they're asking you, I get asked, and like, it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
Guys, we all have access to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, everything that we've learned today, put that into ChatGPT, put in the profile of your ideal buyers, whatever you want the topic to be, give me 25 video ideas with scripts, all under 90 seconds. Boom, 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 boom. Go through, pick the one that connects most with you. Don't just go through the list and do them randomly. Find the one that connects with you that you think will connect to your ideal client. Sit down, go through it, each line, record it, stop it at the end of the line, move on to the next one. Don't think it, don't stress it, and just go through it. When I started videos, it took me 2 hours to do a video. I now do about 10 minutes. It's not hard. Just 10 minutes.
If you guys download that free report, just upload it into whichever AI you use and ask it to walk you through it. That's the wacky. You know what's wacky is that I was talking to my wife and I had like this thought experiment. My son is 10 and my daughter's 14, as you guys know. And I'm like, their kids are never going to know a time where, like my kids don't know a time of anything other than the internet. I had to explain the whole term of rolling up a window. I'm like how that term came up. And they don't know a time outside of like iPads and such. And their kids are not going to know a time without robots and driving cars. And I think that's just wild. And that has nothing to do about anything except I just thought about that. So,
On YouTube, you can do tags and different things like to get it promoted or just linked to your demographic, whatever. What sort of tags should we be using?
So tags are typically, really the way that focus on creating the content first, because what's going to happen on YouTube is that it's taken all the audio and it's converting it into text. And then it's actually running the text through the algorithm. And use your keywords. You're definitely going to want to say whatever neighborhood is, like I live in Great Park, you definitely probably want to start using Great Park home for sale. If you're going to talk about a property address, you're probably going to want to say the property address in the video, say what neighborhood you're in the video, say what city you're in the video, So you're giving it cues on specifically what they're looking for. Start thinking about what a consumer would be searching for if they were to hit your video. So like at these 90-second videos, name it the house number. Can you imagine how angry someone's going to be if they Google the video, or Google the house and your video comes up? Like, now I will tell you, let me tell you the other side of the coin. The way I stumbled upon this was years ago. I started doing video walkthroughs when you had to have a separate unit to do videos. And I would record videos and then I would send them to the client. Had to upload those and then they can kind of download those, and I started adding it to YouTube. Here's what happened to me. And this is why I said, and I don't know the laws here, so you guys have to figure that out, ask Dean, and you know, whatever you guys need to do. But I got called by the division, I got called by the other agent, I got called by the other broker, and it was always I'm marketing a property that I didn't list. And I remember specifically it was in California that the MLS called me. And they said, you can't market a listing that you didn't list. I'm like, I know, and I'm not. And I said, I'm reporting on the market. I'm reporting on what's going on in a given area. And they said, well, you can't do that. I'm like, well, your rules don't supersede the Constitution. And that was years ago. My whole point is that when you do something that's different, that works, people are going to hate on you. Be prepared for it. And the reason why I said be an unbiased reporter is that you have, in my opinion, you have to position yourself to not have to defend yourself. You have to be so unbiased, and the way that I find that to be true is that by putting the other brokerage company name in it, by putting the other agent's name in it, how can you say that you're trying to market their listing for your business if in fact you're giving full disclosure on everything that's going on? So that's kind of my take on it.
What was the end result? Were you?
Oh, they didn't. Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. You know, you get people. I don't know. Maybe it's just in the United States. We have dumb people there. So I think that might be exclusive to the States thing. I find that when you're in real estate, that a lot of agents practice legalese, and everyone wants to turn into an attorney. And I'm just doing my own thing. I'm just, I go out there. I think it's easier now than what it was then, because we do have the rise of the influencers. And I think that there's still plenty of business for all of you guys to do. When you look at the demographic of the real estate agent in the States, I assume it's the same here. The average age is like 63. Now that went up over the year. It used to be like 58. And over the last year or so, it's actually gone up. The reason why is because units have come down, so people are getting out of the business. And so it's typically the people who have been in the business the fewer amount of years who focused on buyer business that are making that number go back up. So I think the listing agent number would still be the same, but I don't have the data that can kind of segment the two. That's my philosophy. So I think that if any of you were to do this, whether your next door neighbor is in this room as well, someone's going to like you more than the other person. They're going to like them more than you, and it's going to be, your personality that's going to be the difference. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for those who take action. I mean, there's a novel thing that none of us have ever heard, right? The people who win take action. Like if you take any of this information out of here today and you do nothing with it, which is typically like, I don't know, probably 90% of what everybody does. That's why I challenged you just to take one thing and implement it. I would say that one thing needs to be probably start your YouTube channel and just start working and just getting over your fear if you have one. But I think there's a great opportunity for everyone. And it's, look, everything that I do is all about lead generation. Like everything that I'm revamping the whole Coldwell Banker University because I think there's a bunch of garbage on there. Just to be frank, a lot of the content was created by people who have never sold a house, and I have issue with that. And there's a lot of fluff in there. And my belief is if I can get people generating an abundance of leads, it solves all problems. You don't have to be that great at much of anything if you have a lot of leads. If the only thing you were good at was generating leads, you take those 5 sources, those 5 reports, you do your videos, and you just generate a massive amount of leads, you will get better in spite of yourself, and you'll just figure it out. The challenge is that most real estate agents are focusing on their database, and when that contracts, not the database, but when the market contracts, they have to hit a home run on every single lead that comes in. So you need to have those different sources of business to make sure that you can actually generate that many leads so you can actually have that constant turning machine. Now I'm just getting off topic. So, okay, so I'm going to stick around afterwards. Let's get on to this. This is how to make clients choose you before they even compare you. Now, we have learning objectives on here too. So number 1 is learn how to increase your value without having to lower your cost. How to increase your value without lowering your cost. Now, raise your hand if you want to lower your commission rate. Just checking. Just checking. We're going to learn the FBI method so you can speak directly to your client's motivation and goals. FBI is a system. It's not the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So it is a system in regards to how to explain your value. You're going to identify your characteristics that make you unique, special, and different. Anyone here ever not get the question is, how are you different than the other agent? Yeah, if you've been in the business longer than 3 minutes, you typically get something like that. And then you're going to create your unique value statement, or I'm going to give you a process of how to create your unique value statement that articulates the benefits of working with you so you can win more clients. That's a big thing. So first off, though, I need everyone to clear their mind and answer this. One word. I'm going to call on a few of you. One word. What is the one word that best describes you? One word. First word that comes to mind is typically the best answer. What's your one word? What's your one word? Hustler. Like that. What's yours?
Honest.
Honest. What's your one word? Anxious. What's your one word? You don't know? What's your one word?
Positive.
Positive. Dean, what's yours?
Handsome.
I second that.
What's your one word? Available. Okay, so I go around the country and I ask that question all the time, and these are the most common answers. Confident, professional, enthusiastic, dedicated, hardworking. 2 words. Hardworking is 2 words. Failure to follow simple instructions is what I call that. Friendly, reliable, trustworthy, loyal advisor. Those are the top most common words when I ask this one word. Does that relate to any of you? Okay. So here's what I need you to do is don't ever use those again.
They look like the average.
Because if you want to compete and if you want to have more value, you can't look like the competition. So let's define what is value. Value by definition is someone or something to be important or beneficial. Someone or something to be important or beneficial. You are someone who is important or beneficial. To who? Your family? I hope so. Not to my 14-year-old daughter, but my 12-year-old daughter I was. Your clients? Yeah, you're valuable. You're someone who is important and beneficial. So here are some quotes that we talked about value. Have you guys ever heard of, in absence of price, there is only value? You guys ever hear that? In absence of price, there's only value. There's another one, that price is what you pay, value is what you get. You guys ever hear that one? They're incomplete. I'm going to prove to you that these are actually incomplete statements. They sound really, really, really great, but when you understand the fundamentals of how to determine value, you're going to find that it's an incomplete statement. It doesn't make any sense. So my last name is Matsuura. It's Japanese. I'm half Japanese. So what happens when I come up with an equation, I turn to a math. So I'll sit there and think about things, and it just must be baked in my DNA to just come up with a math equation. So this is the value equation. WYG over WYP equals value. So WYG on the top, what you get. WYP, what you pay. Okay, so what you get is the perceived worth. The perceived worth, not the worth, it is the perceived worth of the goods and services being offered. So let's take your cable bill. Anyone still have a landline muddled in with your cable bill? Yeah. The bundle is a perceived worth. What do you put the value? What do you put the cost on that? So the perceived worth of goods and services being provided versus the actual price goods and services being offered received. So the perceived worth is what they think they're getting. The actual, what you pay is actually the money that they pull out their wallet and pay, or they tap nowadays. So to give you an example, let's look at 15,000 and the perceived worth of the goods and services. Now we can't in the US really talk about commissions, but if in fact you had $1 million property or a $500,000 property, 3%, you're getting 15,000. Okay, if we were talking about commissions. So 15,000 is the perceived worth of the goods and services that were provided, and this is what was actually paid. Well, 15,000 divided by 15,000 is 1. It's a 1 multiple. It's not a good deal, it's not a bad deal, it's a fair deal. Can we all agree on that? Okay, but what would happen if, so we have these people in the United States, I don't know if you guys have them here, they're called discount brokers. You guys have those here? These are the people that are on a race to zero. Like they just want to undercut. So what would happen if the seller, or excuse me, the consumer, the perceived worth of goods and services remain at 15,000, but then there's someone on a race to zero that'll do it for 7,500. Look what happened. It turned into a 2 multiple. But now some of you are saying, well, wait a second, this is going the wrong direction, Brett. You said that we don't need to reduce our fee, right? Well, look, I'm not done yet. Watch what happens. Let's reset this, 15. So if we increase the perceived worth of goods and services to 30,000, keep the 15,000 what you pay, it's still a 2 multiple. So to increase value, you have 2 options. To increase value, 2 options. You can either increase the goods and services that you provide to the consumer, or you have to decrease the cost. Now, we all agree that nobody wants to reduce the bottom line, right? Nobody wants to decrease your commission, right? Okay, so that makes it very easy. The only thing you can do now is increase the perceived worth of the services you provide. That's it. That's the only thing we can do. Now, we talked about this in the first session about building awareness and building authority. Do you realize that in any white-collar business, the person who's at the top of their game typically never gives discounts? And it's usually the specialist. Now, the brain surgeon doesn't give discounts, not on Groupon. They could be a family doctor, though. They could still do things, but the specialist typically is the one who gets paid the most. That's part of increasing the perceived worth. Be a specialist of something. Because being a specialist of something, make something up. Being a specialist of something beats being a generalist of everything. I just made that up. It's recorded. Let me transcribe that one. So, what is your value? Now let's talk about value. So there are 3 elements to value. You have the brand, you have the company, and then there's you. Those are 3 elements of value. And they're compounding. They're compounding value. So here's what happens. Coldwell Banker, we have goods and services that we give to the real estate center. I'm part of those services that come with it, right? So we give services to TREC. You guys sprinkle your fairy dust on it. They give you the services. You sprinkle your fairy dust on it. You give it to your clients, and then your clients are supposed to go out and just be a raving fan and tell everyone about you. That's how it works. That's how value works, right? That's how most of you are doing your business in your sphere of influence, right? So we need to come up with a value statement. How do you describe yourself? Have you guys ever heard of the elevator pitch? Don't practice that. That doesn't work. Have you ever been in an elevator with someone and actually starting to think about it? Hey, are you looking to buy or sell? Value statement. A value statement is a statement that precisely differentiates you and sets you apart from your competitors. It differentiates you and sets you apart from your competitors. The reason why I said don't use those words is because words matter. If you start using the same words that everybody else uses, then guess what? You're the same. You know this and I know this, and the reason why you know this is because you're consumers, because you do the same thing that your prospects are doing, your clients are doing. So we just need to make sure that we understand the behavior patterns so we don't follow the behavior patterns. So this is a saying by Charlie Munger, Bill Gates' former partner. He passed away. But when a consumer compares a product or service and sees no difference, the lowest price will win. Now think about that with the value equation. When the consumer looks at you and they look at another agent and they see no difference in the goods and services being offered, and they find out what the price is, the lowest one prevails, and it has nothing to do with you personally. It has everything to do with the equation. Now let's look at it with a car. Let's say you have two competing cars. Doesn't matter what kind it is, pick your favorite car. One car lot has it for, $30,000. Same car, $25,000 at the other lot. Same car, same wheels, same tires, same tint, same everything, same year, same mileage. Which one has more value? Has nothing to do with the car lot, has everything to do with that. So we can tie this to shoes, we can tie this to houses, we can tie this to agents, we can tie this to real estate brokerages. I've talked to Dean about this. Now, I was not the CEO of all of Keller Williams, but I did run the top single office in Orange County, California. I had 350 agents out of one office, and I was recruiting about 10 agents each month. And we were just humming along. I used a version of everything that I just taught you in the first one. I had to make sure that if I was going to come and try to attract any of you, I had to make sure, number one, you knew that I existed on planet Earth. That was step number one. And then step number two, I had to become an authority. Guess what I was teaching people in Orange County how to do? Same thing I just taught you guys. And then I did the fear of missing out. And we weren't a discount brokerage. I always looked at things as that we're your partner. And partners, they share in the spoils. I do this and you do that, but we share in the spoils. That's why I always looked at things. But this is what Charlie Munger said. Now I want to give another example. Ice cream cones, vanilla ice cream cones. You guys have these in Canada, yeah?
Yes.
She had to tell you how to think about that one. Okay. Which one do you choose? Which one do you choose? Let's say you go to the park and you have like the food vans, and they only have vanilla ice cream cones. But we don't know that though. But we do now when we go like this. Now which one do you choose? The first one. Who's going to choose the $7 one? What about the $5 one? You don't know, right? Because this is the perceived worth. Because when the consumer looks at competing products and they don't see anything uniquely different, the lowest price prevails. But one thing that we talked about, I shared with you, is that we're now at an event in the length of the line. See, in the $3 one, you're going to have a long line. So the $5 is going to have a short line. The $7 is going to have the shortest line. So it really comes down to your time, right? So there's going to be different things, no different than choosing anything else. But typically, when I do this, the $3 one always kind of prevails. So you're understanding value. Because when the consumer looks at when they look at multiple things, and there's no significant difference, the lowest price typically prevails. And then I shared with you the length of the line. Like I'm not going to. You're not going to wait in line for 30 minutes to save $2. Some people will, the people in the line. But see, what we want to do is make sure that we don't compete, because what we talked about is the perceived worth of the goods and services versus the price you actually pay. So I'm saying change the equation. Now look at it. Now you have a $3 vanilla cone, you have a $5 vanilla, now you have a mint look, when I created this, my daughter was 12. So now you have a waffle cone, chocolate dip, sprinkled on top, mint chocolate chip, and it's $7. Now it changes the whole equation. Because now you're not having competing products. Now you're having differentiation. Making sense, I hope? Okay, so have you guys ever heard, what do you do different than your competitors? What do you do different? As an agent, what do you do different than the other agent? Have you guys ever heard that? That is one of the questions that is universal. It doesn't matter what country I'm in. If I'm talking to a real estate agent, that always comes up. Because the seller, they have a preconceived notion of what agents do, and that's already said. It's your job to change that. But check this out. How are you different? Number one agent. We are the only industry that I'm aware of that everybody's number one. You would have a better off chance of differentiation if you said you're number two. So in my neighborhood, I collect all of the mailers that come in. And about, 4 years ago or so, this is when I was running the office in Orange County, I get this mailer that says number one agent in Irvine, California. Name I've never heard of. I'm like, how can this be? Did I do something wrong? Oh my gosh, my data's wrong. This is an example of always reading the small print. Swear to God, this is a true story. They took a 1 week period in August. Now, August is the slowest month of the year for us. They took a 1 week period in August, and indeed, they were the number one agent for that 1 week in Irvine. I never got anything else from them, but that's the whole point. So number one agent, hardworking, professional, top negotiator, dedicated, friendly, local expert, internet marketing, for sales, you get a for sale sign, you do open houses, you do postcards. So if you're going to talk to your seller and your value proposition looks just like their value proposition, and the things that make you different are exactly the same thing as the other person, how are they going to choose which one has more value? One charges 3%, the other one charges 2.5%, maybe 2%. What happens? Well, now you guys understand the math. Does that help? Help with that? Okay, so your value statement is not about you. Who is it for? It's about your ideal client. It's your ideal client avatar. So this is where I talk to you guys about the FBI method. This is the process of how you can determine the value statement that you're going to present to your ideal client avatar. So FBI, it stands for feature, benefit, impact. Feature plus benefit multiplied by impact equals your value statement. So the feature, very simple. Feature is the service you provide. It is like if you were going to Home Depot and you bought a drill, it'd say 3,000 RPM. It's a feature. You're a real estate license. That's a feature. The benefit is the advantage that feature provides to your client. And I'm going to give you an example for me, but that might be, a feature could be, I've been in real estate for 28 years. Okay, well, what's the benefit to the seller on that? I can't assume that they just know that, look, I remember this time when I was in Utah, and I sold a lot of homes when I was first new into the business. And I remember I was on the phone with another agent, and I got I've been in this business for 20 years. You guys ever get that? And I said, I know you've been in the business for 20 years, but I sold 60 homes last year, which is more than your 20 years. So who has more experience? So that was me back then. I would probably just hang up on him now. So, but anyways, the benefit, you can't assume that the length of time licensed, that the seller is going to equate that to the benefit of the feature. How does that benefit them? How does that give them an advantage? Well, that's where the impact comes in. The impact is the effect that the benefit will have towards your client's goals. The effect towards the goals. Now, what goals do sellers have? I can tell you it's universal no matter where I go.
Get their house right on market.
Wasn't a question.
Oh.
Kidding. Okay. No, you guys will agree with me on this. You guys will agree with me on this. I know you guys will. They want to sell their home for the most money, quickest amount of time, least amount of hassle. Right? Have you ever known anyone has anyone had a seller not want to sell their home with the most money, quickest amount of time, least amount of hassle? You have. They're called for sale by owners. They sell their home with the most hassle, takes them the longest, and they put money on the table. In fact, the data in the US says that those who sell their home on their own, they leave at least 20% on the table. You know why? Typically when they do sell it, only 10%, actually less than 10% sell, because remember, 90% will actually sell through an agent. Because when they do sell it, they sell it to someone who they know, a friend, a family member. Do you think they're getting retail price for that? Probably not, nor are they marketing for it. So there's a lot of things that you do that for sale by owners don't traditionally do. And it doesn't matter what data we use. It just, you talk to anybody in any market, it's pretty much the same. Behavior is the same. As long as you're working with humans. So your competitive advantage. Now this is where I want you guys to think. How are you unique, special, and different? I want you to think about that. Now, everyone has real estate licenses. Okay, can't use that one. Everyone's a hard worker. Can't use that one. I have access to homes. Nope, can't use that one. Let me help you out. Here's some questions. This is how you make you different. How long have you been selling real estate? Well, that's a feature. We'll apply the FBI method to it, but that's a feature that could make you uniquely different. How many transactions have you closed? That's a feature. What other experiences do you have? What are the unique services you provide? What is your list price to sales price ratio in a tight market? That matters. What is your average days on market? What do you specialize in? When I launched, I was with Sotheby's International Realty for about 2 years. I was part of a 2-person team, so I was 50% of it, that launched their internal program, their internal training program. And the agents helping agents, what you guys have seen now, for those of you who've been on that, I did something similar at Sotheby's International Realty called Agent Cameos. So very, very similar. Where I'd go around and I would talk to these top agents and really hear what they're doing in their business for the benefit of all you. Because my thought is, if you have a top agent in XYZ market and you get to hear what it is that they're doing, there might be some little nuanced thing that you pick up that you can apply into your business that could translate over. That's the reason why I do what I do. Well, this one, she grew up around horses and she specialized in equestrian properties. Those were not 100% of her sales, but that's where her specialty was. Now, I don't know about here, but equestrian properties typically sell for more money. You know, that's a lot of land. If you can afford horses, they typically have a lot of money. They were luxury properties. And her major point was, or part of her marketing was just, she sponsored a polo team. So these horses would have, you know, the uniforms, the jockeys, or whatever they're called. I think jockeys, right, in polo? Anyone know? Okay, we'll just call them people who ride horses with a stick. We'll call it hockey with horses. And no ice.
Is it polo?
What'd you say?
Polo?
Polo. Is it jockeys?
The game?
It's always a job.
It's always okay, thank you. I didn't know that. So anyways, she specialized in that. And even though she didn't spend, that wasn't 100% of her business. She got a lot of business from that. But like 70% of her business was just like average homes in the area. And she still was able to capture a high commission because she was a specialist in something. Now, in California, you could be the specialist at coastal properties. You could be there's another woman that I interviewed. She nicknamed herself the condo queen. Why? Because she sells a lot of condos in Florida. She sells a lot of condos in Florida. I don't know about now, but back then she did. I mean, Florida condo market's like falling apart over there. She's probably still selling a lot of them though. So it's up to you to decide what your specialty is. Nobody has to grant you that permission. Just specialize in something. You had a question?
I do. So being newer into the business, how long have you been selling real estate is a very it's a very big question, but then I also get, from the competitor side, well, I've been doing this 20 years, and I mean, my reaction to an agent that doesn't mean 20 years makes it better, but,
Sure.
the perceived notion. So how, this is kind of questions for people.
It kind of, you feel like it kind of eliminates you, like hurts you. Sure.
So how do we,
Okay.
make our...
So the question for you in the back was, what do you do when you're new into the business? So one of the benefits that you have with being with Coldwell Banker, like I've been with Coldwell Banker, I've been with Century 21, Keller Williams, Remax is when I first started. I know that they're big here. Better Homes and Gardens, ERA, and Coldwell Banker is one of those brands that penetrates every market segment. So that's a benefit to all of you. And it's a brand, when you tie yourself to a brand, the reputation of that brand is in the door before you are. Coldwell Banker. Well, what's most important to sellers, right? Most important to sellers is a reputation of being honest and trustworthy. So the fact that you're with Coldwell Banker, one of the things I hear myself saying now that I have a teenage daughter is the company that you keep is a judgment of your character. Like, we just had a predicament at school where she was guilty by association. She says, she says, and I just had those words came out of my mouth. Like, you are the company that you keep. And so the fact that you're with Coldwell Banker, the fact that you're with this great audience is that now you're a team. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when you hire me, you're not just hiring me, you're hiring a team behind me that have, we've listed and sold more properties than the next, do the math, whatever it is. So it goes from I to we. And you say we until you actually get to the point where you can strategically use I. Now that goes for all of you that are veterans, because there are markets. Now, we talked about it in the last session, is that there's likely no real big competitors who own the market anymore. Those days are gone. Benefit to all of you. We also know that 90% are going to choose an agent. 81% of them are only going to meet with one agent. So the only person that you're probably going to have to compete with is when you're talking to them on the other end, because the seller is typically not interviewing anyone else. As long as you are looked at as having a reputation of being honest and trustworthy. So, but where it goes from I is we. So I would encourage you, and this goes for the veterans in the room, if you're going into a neighborhood, and let's just say you're part of that 19% where they're going to interview another agent, and that other agent has more individual sales, but your company has more sales, that's where you tie it into it. Me and my company, we've sold more homes than XYZ combined. Does that help? Yeah?
How about dollar per square foot?
Dollar per square foot works? Yeah. Anything feature-wise, now we're going to go into this, because now any feature that you comes up with, that's my American coming out. Every time my wife talks to me and she says America, she says America.
Oh, that's fine.
So, okay, let's move on. Okay, so here's my introduction. So I'm a family man, 28-year veteran in the real estate industry. I'm a veteran United States Marine. So I did not join the Marines when I was younger because I thought it was going to work out 30 years later, but it works out 30 years later. Most people are patriotic, so work with what you got. Family man. The introduction ties me into the demographic that I want to find that will benefit to it. So my past experiences. So when I was in production, I closed over 1,000 real estate transactions across 26 states. Why do I use that? I'll show you. My value. I have extensive real estate experience, superior market knowledge, stay several steps of the competition. So that came from 1,000 real estate transactions across 26 states. Now, is this true? No, maybe. What I say next is, this is me describing my services to them. You don't leave it up to the consumer to determine the value of your feature. You have to tell them. And they'll go, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. At least they do that in America. Effect. You sell your property for the most money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. FBI. So this is what it is. You have your introduction. That's who you attract. So here's a great thing. If I were to go back into production, which I can't, contractually I can't, I would say, I'd talk about being a family man, and that's going to attract family with kids. I'm going to talk about my service. That's going to attract the patriotic people, and my real estate experience. That ties into knowing the knowledge and knowing the area. Now, again, you would tie that into me and my company have been in the business for 30 years and blah, blah, blah. Here's what it looks like. This is my value statement. I only choose 3 features. My name is Brent Matsuura. I'm a husband to a wonderful wife, a father of 2 exceptional children, an honorably discharged United States Marine, and a 28 veteran in the real estate industry. In my first decade in real estate, I closed more than 1,000 real estate transactions across 26 states. With my, remember, feature, benefit, with my extensive real estate experience and superior market knowledge, I consistently stay several steps ahead of the competition. Do you really want to choose somebody who stays several steps behind the competition? You see how I just tied that into my introduction to the consumer, that my time in real estate and transactions mean that I have a lot of experience, I have superior knowledge, and I stay several steps ahead of the competition. That may or may not be true, but it is to them because I'm not leaving it up to them to make that deciding factor. And by adding that all together, by working with me, you leverage my experience and knowledge to sell your property for the most money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. That is the proverbial hit the button. Beep, 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 beep. You can also turn that into a negative. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to lose time. That's the value proposition or the value statement. So here's the thing. Oops, sorry. So here's the thing. So this is where I want to go. So that's the value statement. I'm going to make sure that you guys, we haven't developed out the playbook for this yet. What you'll find on Coldwell Banker University is anytime when you guys take a workshop, there will be a component built into that to where you can take it, use AI, and have it walk you through it. We're also going to be developing out workshops that's just going to take you step by step through the process. So we talked about this 5-step process in the prior session. We are going to walk you through step 1, like 30 minutes. Let's just hammer it out and get it done. Ask your questions if you have any. Step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. We're doing the best that we can to get you guys the knowledge that you need so that you guys can take action. Took a while to come here, but that's where we're at. Okay, so I want to close with this. The same wind blows on us all. This was a saying that was shared with me. Before I got into real estate, I taught martial arts for a few years as a young man. And the owner of the studio, he gave me a lot of Zig Ziglar book, a lot of Jim Rohn stuff. And Jim Rohn was what stuck to me. And this stuck with me. The same wind blows on us all. And what Jim says is that the same wind blows on us all. The wind when it's favorable, when it's unfavorable, when it's sideways, when it's upside down. The political wind, God knows we're in America, like we have political wind. The economic wind, the social wind, the high interest rate wind, the high inflation wind, like you name it, the same wind blows on all of us. But what he says is that we're all out there in like a little sailboat. And your goals, wishes, dreams, desires are somewhere out on the horizon. And what he says is that it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination. It's the set of your sail. And that's what learning is all about, to set a better sail. The information I provide to you in the last, 3 hours or so, took me 28 years of trial and error to get to it. Now, most of us don't have 28 years to actually do that trial and error. So what learning does is it takes, I always say when I'm teaching, you have knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. You can't have knowledge and then just skip straight to wisdom. You have to have knowledge, you have to imply that, and then you have to go out and just fail forward, and then you get to wisdom. So the things that I shared with you, I only do this live. We don't do this virtually at all. The things I shared with you is the culmination of 28 years of just failing and then getting back up and trying again, getting up and trying again. And it's not going to be 100% successful for all of you, but I'm taking you 80% of the way there if you implement it. Because your difference in arrival in the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years to you, your goals, your family's goals, your wants, wish, and desires has nothing to do with the blowing of the wind, has everything the way you do to set your sail. So ladies and gentlemen, you've been a great crowd. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Questions?
Oh, sorry.
No, you can come up here. Anyone have any questions?
I got it. This Coldwell Banker, I need the quote for the presentation. So let's see if they get updated. The fire presentation.
So you're asking if we're updating the buyer presentation because we just did the listing. Yeah. So I was just, here's my problem with the listing and buyer presentation, and it has nothing to do with anything. The marketing department creates it. And they have a new listing presentation coming out that I'm not a fan of because it's not a sales presentation. We have a course called Winning with Buyers. We created that due to the change in regulation in the states that requires, on a national level, it requires a signed agency agreement before you provide any services whatsoever. And they gave a deadline of that for last April, so a year ago. And I got to tell you, people were just losing their crap on it. Like they thought that the whole industry was going down. Now me, I started my career in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've never known a market where I didn't get a signed representation agreement before I provided services. So I'm just like standing there like going, what are you guys freaking out about? So what we ended up doing is, from our learning department, I went to every single market that had laws on the books already that required signed agency agreements before giving services. And my team went and we interviewed all of the top agents in that area to bring out a system. So true to form, how I just make really easy questions into really long answers. If you go to Winning with Buyers, it'll give you the framework of that. That's the best that we can do right now. The marketing department does not have anything on the books to do anything like a buyer presentation, but the elements are in Winning with Buyers. Any other questions? You guys are all fatigued.
Good.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, just before you go, a couple of in-house cleanup matters, and I want to make an announcement. So on June the 17th, Brittany and Floyd are doing a content session on creative content. So keep that date aside, it'll be online. For those of you that haven't met Robert in the back, he owns the Network Brew. And in 2 months' time, we're building a content studio in the basement here. So which is going to be really exciting for everybody to use. And we're just sort of going through those details right now. So you want to say a few words about that, Robert, very briefly?
Well, the 28 years that Brett just condensed into 3 hours can literally change the way you do business and your careers. We just want to make sure that we put in place a format to allow you to keep that momentum going and practice what Brett was speaking about here today. And with a content theater is part of the platform that will allow us to do that.
Awesome, thank you. There's some awards still up here. We've got
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Hirsch has got an award up here. So please make sure that the international award winners, they go up there. There's some awards here. Please make sure you take them. Pick them up and take them. Lastly, Robert's going to go around and ask some questions about today. If you can give him a brief moment or brief some little content session live, and take some polls here with the backdrop, which is available. And everyone, this was incredible. Would you not agree? Tremendous leadership that we have in our network, and we're going to continue to try and deliver all of this to you. Okay? Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, went really well. Really, really well.
Yeah, we got done in 3 hours.
We did.
Look at that.
We did.
We did good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Oh, no.
I'll just grab that.
Oh, yeah.
In case you have a conversation. Yeah. Well, I'm going to use this as a backdrop. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get you to hold the mic.